So basically, kids, check this out. 63% of all U.S. jobs created since 90 have been low-wage jobs. If you have a good paying job, you should probably try to hold on to it because those types of gigs are rare. Since 1990, the U.S. economy has produced millions of jobs, but as you will see below, nearly two-thirds of them have been low-wage type. Of course, this is one of the biggest factors causing the systematic erosion of the American middle class. Today, half of U.S. workers make less than da da da. Housing costs, basic necessities are rising much faster than checks. Da da da. A job making chicken sandwiches at Popeyes is not equivalent to a structural engineering job. In other words, the quality of job that we create is perhaps even more important than the number. See, yes, the U.S. has been creating a lot of jobs in recent years, but meanwhile, the overall quality has degraded rapidly. Although the U.S. is on record streak for job creation, many Americans still feel like they can't get ahead. It's not their imagination. The past 3 decades have seen the economy churn out more and more jobs that offer inadequate pay. A group of researchers found the history of private sector employment in the U.S. over the past 2 decades is one of the overall degradation and the ability of American jobs to support households, even those with multiple job holders. They wrote, in fact, if you go back to 90, about half of all jobs in the U.S. were good jobs. But since that time, a whopping 63% of jobs that have been created have been low wage, low hour jobs. In the 90s, the jobs were pretty much evenly divided, said Daniel Alpert, the founder of Westwood Capital and one of the creators of the index. In the process of running the numbers, he said, we discovered that 63% of all jobs that were created in the 90s were low wage, low hour. That was pretty stunning statistics. So, what is the answer? In the past, you could make good money in America if you just had a high school education. There were millions upon millions of high-paying manufacturing jobs in the country. But at this point, most of those high-paying gigs have been shipped to other nations where wages are far, far lower. Today, our young people are being greatly encouraged to get a college education so that they can compete for the dwindling number of good-paying gigs. Of course, there aren't enough good-paying gigs for all of our college graduates, but at least with a college degree, you might slightly have a better chance. Unfortunately, getting a college education has become oppressively expensive, and our young people have taken on uh, enormous amount of debt as well. In fact, Time Magazine says the amount of student loan debt is over 1.5 trillion. More than 44 million Americans that have debt, more than 1.5 trillion. The number has almost doubled over the past decade. We have never seen a student loan debt bubble of this magnitude in the entire history of this country, and the debt delinquency rates are soaring. Yeah, fuck that student loan shit, man. That shit, fuck that shit. And even though there has been a national uproar about this, the cost of education continues to rise much faster than the overall cost of inflation. Da da da. Is a prominent talking point for the 2020 presidential election. The study put out by the Financial Technology found that on average, college costs have risen to almost three stacks since '05, increasing 112%, more than the rate of inflation. Da, da, da. Well, where in the world is all that money going? Well, one recent administrative blow is the biggest factor that is driving up costs. Administrative bloat contributes enormously to the higher rising cost of tuition. In recent years, non-teaching personnel in higher education have exploded. Pulliam said that at some colleges, bureaucrats outnumber faculty. The diversity bureaucracy has proliferated at many schools. UT employs nearly 100 people in its diversity department, some of whom are paid six figures. Unnecessary and overpaid administrators are responsible for much of the increased overhead borne by students in the form of tuition increases. So as you pay off your student loan, you can be comforted by the fact that the associate provost for diversity and inclusion at every college is bringing home about six stacks a year, and perhaps that is the solution for the U.S. economy as a whole. If we just create enough diversity and inclusion administration jobs, then we can all make six stacks. Of course, I'm being facetious. The truth is that if we ever want to restore the U.S. economy to greatness, we need to start making things in the country again. We need jobs that add real value to our society, and we need an economic environment that respects and encourages innovation. Unfortunately, what we have today is just the opposite. We are consuming far more wealth than we are producing. Many of our good paying jobs are admin or government jobs and add very little value to our society. And our small businesses are being strangled by rules, regulations, and oppressive levels of taxation. The only way we have been able to maintain our debt fueled standard of living is by piling up the biggest mountain of debt in the history of the world. And if we continue we desperately need to return to common sense economics, but unfortunately common sense appears to be um supply, not in much supply in America today. Okay, so let's see what's up. Uh, uh, let's see what's up with the comments. So the comments on this is I'm looking at it right now. 63% of jobs. Okay, this comment got 21 to 0 likes. 21 to 0. Yeah, 21 to 0. 21 up good votes versus 0 disses. Our country has become a retail and service industry. I do not think people understand that without the Fed injecting trillions of imaginary dollars every year in this country, the country would collapse. Somebody came back and said the U.S. was created by the crown to afford Ali Ali. Forget, I don't know what he's talking about. Uh, Somebody said got 8 to 0 Republicans versus Democrats is a mind fuck. They both serve the same masters. Interesting. Got 8 to 0 on that. Let me see what else. 19 to 0. This was obvious 20 years ago to anyone who bothered to pay attention. 19 to 0. 18 to 2. Thanks, free trade. Thanks, Reagan. You sell out. Thanks, Bush. You bastard. Thanks, Clinton. You weasel. All right, 6 to 1. Somebody said uh, free trade was only to move capital. Downside was all manufacturing was offshore. Americans were to code and be engineers and design stuff. That's how it was sold. I could do a part two on this, man. Like somebody said 16 to 0. Despite what most think, tech jobs are not much better than many service related positions. You can thank H-1B visas, outsourcing cronyism, and over 2 decades of stagnant wages. Case in point, I have managed the IT infrastructure slash resources for a public school for 16 years and still haven't crawled my way to 50K. This year, they announced yet another salary freeze and reclassification of my position with a new starting salary of only 18K. Good news is I'm grandfather. The bad news is they would now be looking for anything to dismiss me on so I could be replaced. Home of the slave, life in the land of the free, home of the slave. Land of the free, home of the slave. Wow. Somebody said they got 13 to 0. I used to be an avionics tech and installer. The contracts I worked in 2000 for 25 hour are today paying 19 an hour with vastly more restrictive requirements and all the admin overhead BS that goes with trying to work at an airport now. It isn't stagnant wages and it's decreasing wages, and half the floor now speaks Spanish, so trying to coordinate between departments is a nightmare. Plus the techs still Plus, the tech still have to buy their own tools for the most part, and that is thousands of dollars for a decent set that actually fits aircraft hardware properly. Think of what think of what life would think of what would have been like 20 years ago making a grand a week versus like today making 800 a week. It's fucking impossible. Somebody got 10 to 0. People always say this, but it's true. I was an engineer for RCA way back in the 60s, 70s. Even techs could easily support a family, cars, vacations, and a wife at home looking after about 6 kids. How did we fall so far? That's how you said. 16 to 2. How many of those low wage jobs were working for companies that pay their CEO 20 million a year? Question mark. Americans love to crawl about democracy and free enterprise. It's just a pile of BS. America is a serfdom, just like the old days where the monarch controlled and owned everything. 11 to 1. It all goes back to too much government, too many rules, regulations, constrictions, taxes, and bureaucrats. It is the same for inequality. Get government out of the way and watch the lower classes earn more money and have better lives. Uh, the catch is ROI. How much money do they return on the time nobody wants to earn it?